WALL-E is amazing. After a rewatch of this movie, I came to the stark realization that this may be one of the best Pixar movies, if not the best they've ever done. I'll have to rewatch the others to be sure, however, this movie is completely incredible in both its story, its animation, and its emotional engagement. When I was a wee lad, I didn't give this movie the fair justice it deserved. I watched it and immediately went back to Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles. All amazing movies, but the point is, I didn't grasp onto WALL-E the same way. But after this rewatch, I can confidently say that little baby me was so wrong. Maybe it was nostalgia for these other movies, maybe it's because I was more looking forward to Up at the time, but here I am, years later, ready to sing this movie's praises. The movie begins with a dilapidated Earth, filthy, disgusting, and crowded with garbage. Moving through this rabble is a single robot, a WALL-E unit, which stands for Waste Allocation Load Lifter Earth Class. Through the horde of garbage, we see that WALL-E, in his lonesomeness, has grown a curiosity. He picks up little bits and bobs and even listens to music to keep himself busy and entertained in a world where he is nearly alone, designed to do an impossible task of cleaning up the Earth by building trash mounds higher than skyscrapers. As WALL-E returns home, we see that the world/country has been taken over by a monopoly called By and Large, who is the sole proprietor of everything from warehouse stores, transits, and even banks. It's not outright said in this movie, but through multiple shots in this movie, By and Large is shown to have been negligent toward the primary concerns of the planet and focusing solely on consumerism. Hell, even the president is the CEO of By and Large. WALL-E passes other shutdown Wallies as he heads home. Why are they shut down and he isn't after all this time? Quite possibly due to wear and tear, the storms that surged the land, or possibly it was WALL-E's ingenuity to repair himself that sets him apart from these familiar corpses. He also passes some news boards which tell us that humanity has fled into space aboard exotic starliners to avoid the crowded garbage. So WALL-E returns home, which is filled with curiosities he's snagged over the years, and he throws on Hello Dolly starring Barbra Streisand, even using a screen to magnify the iPod it's playing on to simulate a TV screen. As he watches, he yearns for the affection of another, or simply to not be so lonely. Adorable. The next day, WALL-E charges himself using solar panels and gets back to his daily routine when he stumbles upon a single plant. He's about to head home till his ship lands and deposits an Eve drone designed to find any signs of plant life on Earth. At first, Eve is hostile towards WALL-E, but once she recognizes he isn't part of her directive, she leaves him be. Feeling discouraged about the lack of plant on this planet, Eve asks what WALL-E's directive is, to which he responds, and then asks him his name, to which he responds, and upon hearing her say his name, he gets a little flattered. Adorable.
It's too cute! It's disgusting!
So WALL-E takes Eve back to his place to escape a dust storm and tries to charm her with his trinkets, but when he shows her the plant, she goes into shutdown mode and waits for the ship to take her back. WALL-E decides to jump ship upon seeing Eve being taken, and he ends up on the Axiom, a starliner housing the rest of humanity, which has become incredibly lazy, obese, and unconcerned with the struggles of everyday living. Robots do their each and every burden for them. Hell, they don't even talk to each other face to face anymore. I wonder if this is a commentary on anything happening today. Eve and WALL-E are brought to the captain's quarters where they see Eve has come back positive. Via protocol, they're told it's time to go back home. But oh no, the plant is missing. So the captain concludes Eve is defective and sends them to the repair ward where WALL-E sets the defective bots free, and Eve and WALL-E both get coined as rogue robots. Eve takes WALL-E to an escape pod and tries to send him off so she can find the plant, but have to hide when one of the Go4 security robots comes in, sneaks the plant onto the pod, sets it to self-destruct, and launches it with both the plant and WALL-E inside. Eve launches herself through a surface airlock, while WALL-E ejects using a fire hydrant and reunites with Eve, showing her he has the plant. Wait, how can a plant survive in the cold blackness of space? Whatever.
That don't make no sense!
Eve gives WALL-E a hug and a spark occurs, sending WALL-E into a giddy, overwhelmed state and touches him to the core. We'll get back to that later, but adorable. WALL-E and Eve make it back into the ship and brings the captain the plant, but once he sees what Earth has become in their absence, he's hesitant to go back before hearing something familiar. A song etched into his mind before realizing that even the plant didn't give up, and that neither should humanity. Whilst this is happening, Eve is going through her security footage, realizing how much WALL-E cared for her while she was inactive, and begins to understand what WALL-E was yearning for this whole time. So the captain finally decides to go back to Earth, and oh hey, an A113 cameo. The captain orders Otto, that's autopilot for you all still paying attention, to fire up the holo detector so they can go home, but Otto argues against this and shows the captain a classified message from the CEO or president saying life on Earth is unsustainable and they should just fucking stay in space. Not processing that the message is 700 years old, Otto rebels against the captain, trying to prevent humanity from going back to Earth, because on the axiom, humanity will survive, and the captain replies,
I don't want to survive! I want to live!
Otto mutinies and shocks Wally when he tries to protect the plant and throws both Eve and Wally down the trash compactor to be dumped into space. Eve ends up saving Wally when Mo blocks the door solely because he's trying to clean up after Wally. Adorable. With Wally damaged, Eve tries to fix him to Wally's dismay that the plant and getting back to Earth is the directive, not only to save humanity, but because his parts are there and there he can be repaired. The captain wrestles with Otto for control of the ship, Eve and Wally get into some shenanigans and eventually make it to the holo detector, but not before Wally is crushed. So with the plant secured, the Axiom heads back to Earth and humanity takes its first steps on the planet in over 700 years. Eve rushes to Wally's home and tries to repair him as fast as she can, but when Wally comes to, he's reset back to his factory settings with no memory of Eve, his adventure, his curiosities are now junk, his personality gone. Only his directive. Once Eve finally understands what's happening to Wally, she leans in and the spark, that same spark from before, comes between them. And Wally comes to with the same verve and excitement he once had. And the movie ends with It Only Takes a Moment by Michael Crawford and Barbra Streisand. Wally is absolutely delightful. Its cute characters and its plot are unmatched in how real they feel. Working with characters who speak in a very minimalist way is hard to pull off, however, through facial expressions and body language, Pixar manages to tell us a story about robots as real as any human. The writers treat their audience with respect and understand that not everything needs to be spelled out for us. We don't need long stretches of dialogue from either of these characters to understand what they're feeling or what's happening. Visual storytelling is a technique not used very often anymore, and this movie executes it flawlessly. It's why everyone loves the first 10 minutes of Up, and why this movie stands out amongst other child movies.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
We don't need Eve to explain what's happening to Wally, nor Wally to explain to the audience that he's lonely. These things are very much implied. This movie's plot is super simple. Get the plant back to the Axiom so humanity can get the green light to come back home. Perfect. No convolution, no sidetracks, this movie stays the course and it's so effective. The antagonist of the story isn't some mustache-twirling villain, it's humanity's own creation that's simply following its protocol. Otto is cold, calculating, and holds arguably the trait that makes the best villains. It thinks what it's doing is right under the information it has. He isn't an evil being or an evil entity, he's just following his directive, even if there are examples to the contrary. I'm kind of preaching to the choir when I say that the cute factor is off the charts with this movie, from Wally's innocent curiosity to Eve's flirtatious nature, and Mo's just doing his best. Wally's not a typical protagonist. He has no extraneous lines of dialogue with him, he isn't human yet he's just as sympathetic and conscious as one. This isn't new ground for Pixar, however this time it's different due to the minimalistic nature of his dialogue. He goes throughout his day cleaning and doing the directive he was assigned to do, some moments very comical while others very haunting. He's dirty, old, and enamored with the knickknacks and doohickeys around him. Wally inspires curiosity and life in both humanity and robots, appealing to their nonconformist side, even if more than not it is unintentional, whereas Eve is almost the complete opposite. Clean, advanced, and in the beginning solely focused on her directive, find the damn plant. The romance between these two is executed flawlessly, with Wally yearning for Eve's attention, I feel for you buddy, making yard after yard in progress until Eve sees the quality of Wally and what may surprise her. As the film goes on, she's continuously surprised by his actions, invoking a care for his character that feels extremely organic, only to have everything she loves about him nearly slip through her fingers. The spark between Eve and Wally was something I missed when I was younger. Yeah, I wasn't very smart. This isn't a circuitry spark, this isn't a glitch between them, this is the love spark. Extremely corny, I know, however this movie executes it very well and doesn't make a big show of it, only utilizing it in these specific moments, both when the characters are extremely close or when they're extremely distant. The commentary on humanity and their addiction to technology, consumerism, and having everything within their reach is one that grows increasingly more relevant as the days go on. Everyone in this movie is living the same life, too bogged down by monotony and consumerism to think any different. I'm gonna get very philosophical here, so be warned, but the movie doesn't press the notion too hard in my opinion. Humanity, upon seeing what's beyond our screens, wants to escape from this computer-like lifestyle. This is shown when Mary finally looks up from her screen and sees what's all around her, only to pass that same curiosity onto John later in the film, and it began with Wally's clumsiness and his intrigue towards everything around him. This is also reflected in the Captain. The Captain is an interesting character. He's a product of the environment his forefathers have created for him, but from the get-go, he's not okay with it, hence why he wants to do morning announcements, the one thing he gets to do on the ship. As the movie progresses and Wally literally rubs off on him, he begins to grow more curious, asking the ship's computer about Earth and what life was like back in the good old days. His agency is then tested once he realizes Earth is not the way he envisioned. But after contemplation, both with the curiosity Wally has granted him and the strength the plant has given him, he decides to stand up and take control of the situation. Sometimes all humanity needs is the will and the urge to stand up. This film isn't flawless. Like I mentioned before, how can a plant survive in the cold, empty vacuum of space even for a little bit? Wally makes it out of the pod 1 second before it explodes. Possible, but not likely. Eve gets frustrated and takes to blowing things up that discourage her. I don't know, the plant could have been growing in any of those ships. Why has the Axiom been in space for 700 years isn't explored? It's just left to our imagination what changed from a 5-year trip to a 700-year one. It was likely Otto, but you would have thought one of the captains would have questioned going back by now. Also, this little gag exists. Regardless of these minor flaws though, Wally stands as a testament to show don't tell, as well as a message containing some very heavy social commentary that, in my opinion, people today don't think about too much. People with their noses in their phone, devouring whatever sludge is presented for them, and are too afraid to step outside of their comfort zone and open their eyes to what's truly around them. It's also an incredibly well done love story, leaning into how love overwrites programming. Messages that were as relevant in 2008 as they are today, as they will be 700 years from now. Assuming we're all still here.